Boom. Welcome in, everybody. Home Court Podcast. Sammy Show rocking the new Tigers cap. Connor, Luke over here in the whiteout. Man, it has been a couple of weeks since we recorded. Been busy gearing up for my PGA qualifier on Monday. And a lot's been going on in the league. NFL draft last night. San Francisco took Trey Lance instead of Mac Jones, thank God. But, yeah, screw that. We don't really care about the NFL, do we?
Nah, we don't care about the NFL at all.
Yeah, we're going to talk playoff picture. We're going to talk a little MVP action, get into some of the breakdowns of the matchups that are looking like they're going to happen. Brooklyn and Philly are already locked in the 1 and 2, as well as Utah and Phoenix in the West. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Something kind of crazy. Our Pistons are not eliminated from the playoffs yet. Last in the East, they're still not eliminated. And that shows there's a big drop-off. And the Wizards aren't such a bad team in that 10th seed, but they're still 28 and 34, and they have a chance to be in the playoffs. It's wild.
And they've been hot lately.
Yeah, let's talk about them. Let's talk about the Wizards. I mean, they're dangerous, obviously, because you know that in a play-in type situation, Russell Westbrook can just go 150% and win a game. You know, we know how good he is.
Yep.
And say what you will about how he plays with other people, but him and Bradley Beal could just become possessed and win any game, any given game. And I felt like they're the team this year that I hated betting on. Because it's like, who's going to show up? You know? And now, down the stretch, I'd love to bet on them. I'm sure they're covering everything because Russ and Beal are like, let's get in the playoffs. And they're just willing it. Man, that team, they're exciting, but it's still an uphill battle at the 10th seed.
Yeah.
So before
it's kind of like,
get into... Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I feel like they're kind of like if I, me and you said, hey, let's race, right? And so we race. Yeah, you win. You're faster. Okay. And I'm pretty fast, though. And then I, break the law, and a cop starts chasing me. I'm going to run a little bit faster than I ran against you, even though, I thought I was maxing out, but you're going that extra 10 miles an hour just because, you're running for your life. And I think Beal and Westbrook together in that scenario are playing even harder than they already play. So
Exactly, because you can't fault them for not going 100%. You know what I mean? Early in the season, things can go wrong, but they were still putting like 100% effort in. But now it's just like, was that like the way they're playing right now? It's like it's hard to believe that they've been putting forth all that effort, but they have. They're hardworking players. But before we get into too many pictures, I just want to hear your opinion on the play-in. Are you like pro play-in game? Like, could you see this going on past this season? Because I like
huge pro play-in game because the Wizards are a great example of why, because they would be tanking right now if there wasn't a playing game, right?
Absolutely. And the less tanking, the better.
Yes, absolutely. We want more competitive basketball. We want more competitive basketball because the regular season is not competitive enough.
No, you're right.
Ish, but
it definitely involved, I'd say, 4-5 extra teams in the picture, making them not tank. And I hate tanking. The end of the season for those bottoming teams, it's impossible to watch because it's like, if they win, it's negative for them, which that's something the NBA's got to figure out on a larger scale. But, okay, now that we know we're both pro play-in, and I want to see this continuing on, let's look at, like, what we think's actually going to happen. Because in the East right now, it goes Miami at the 7, Charlotte at the 8, Pacers 9, Wizards 10. And the Bulls aren't completely out of it, but I don't know. They're so disappointing. I just can't see them sneaking back in. So let me lay it out for you real quick, Connor. The 9th and the 10th seed play a game, and whoever loses that is done, from what I can see. And whoever wins that gets a chance to play for the 8th seed against the loser of the 7th versus 8th matchup. So if Washington beats the Pacers, they have a chance to play the loser of Miami Heat versus the Hornets. So it's kind of wild because there's really not that big of a buffer. It doesn't seem like enough because like you were saying, Miami Heat, they busted their ass to get into that 7th position after a poor start, and they lose 2 games and they're done.
Yeah,
that's wild. What do you think about that?
I mean, I love it because that's the way it should be. I mean, your best players show up in big moments, and now, the notoriously in basketball, the 8th seed in the NBA playoffs never really wins that series anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, you've got 2 more big-time games that we'd never have in the past for, guys like Sabonis to show up and make him, put his name on the map. Guys like, Bradley and Westbrook to show that, we're those guys. We have been. Hey, what's up?
I'm an MVP. Like, that's Russ's opportunity to be like, do you know who I am? Like, I can will a few games.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny though, because I didn't think of it in that light. Like, we're talking about playing in to a situation where you're likely going to lose the series. Like, for some reason, I'm so caught up in this playing game that I feel like it's a championship in itself to get into the playoffs from a 10 seed,
which is exciting.
Which is great. And like you said, it's very meaningful games that we didn't have before.
Like, those are, to me, are games like I'm going to the wings, the wing restaurant and getting some wings and beers and watching, rather than game 2 of the 1 and 8 that I'm watching in my bed or even catching highlights of. Cause
those games, I would not be surprised if they have better ratings than the first round of the playoffs. I mean, some of those series are a little
I'm
exciting.
For a lot of these series.
Yeah. So, but here's another thing that I'm thinking about. So we're talking about how, like, you get the 8th seed, you probably, historically you don't have much of a chance to move on. But how about in the West? Do you think, I feel like the West is a little more like there could be an upset, and I feel like there could be a big upset this year. But is that just because we disrespect the Jazz or the Suns? I mean, the Suns are hard to disrespect right now.
Portland will push Utah. If that's the matchup, Portland will push Utah to 5, 6,
What about
7.
the Grizz, dude? The Grizz have been great. And Jaren Jackson just got back. He's a little rusty, but he's like a stud. And they, without him, got to that seed. So, I
I love that Grizzlies team. You know that they're one of my absolute favorite teams to watch. The problem with them is they don't have experience there, and Josh still shoots a lot of poor shots.
You're right. His
He
shot
doesn't
selection's
take high
not great.
percentage shots. And in the playoffs, when things get tight, they slow down. It's like, all right. I mean, they fall and they go to 6, but I don't know if my Memphis has the same chance that Portland does. I legitimately think Portland could beat Utah.
What about the Suns? Because that's what is the most likely situation. Portland Suns.
Yeah, Portland Suns. You're right. No, Portland is not beating Phoenix.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you, but I think that could be one of the more exciting playoff matchups for me if Portland's healthy.
Round 1 for sure.
Yeah, because you got Dame, and Nurkic is healthy, and we'll see if Norman Powell makes a big difference for this team with his defense in the playoffs, because that's another thing. Defense is different in the playoffs. The intensity is different. So when you get a good perimeter defender, maybe that doesn't show up when he lands to your team in the second half of the regular season, Maybe we're going to see Norman Powell all of a sudden lock down some guards. Like, he's probably going to... Do you think he's going to be on D-Book?
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't think McCollum is.
McCollum wouldn't do well against D-Book, I don't think. No. Nor, I don't think D-Book wouldn't do well against McCollum either. I feel like both of those guys can get to their spot and score. It's hard to do well against them.
Phoenix has wing defenders that
McCall
makes up.
Do the Suns have a chance to go to the finals? Yes.
I think so now, because LA is shaky. The Lakers are shaky. Denver lost Jamal.
We have to talk about the Lakers then. We got to talk about the Lakers.
We will talk about the Lakers. Talk about it.
Let me talk about it right now, because
go for it.
The Lakers know exactly what they're doing right now. They know that the position they're in allows them to play Denver in the first round without Jamal, which is, with LeBron back, shouldn't be a problem. They had bubble Jamal last year in the playoffs, and it went 5 games. And the Lakers are a better team this year than they were last year. Sure, Nicole is a little better this year too, but he doesn't have Jamal by his side. So I think the Lakers have one of the easiest matchups in the first round if this is how it sorts out. And then on top of that, they play the winner of Jazz Phoenix, correct?
Yep.
Which is honestly, in my opinion, better than playing the winner of Clippers Mavs. Or, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
because
the Mavs, but I don't want to play the Clippers until the last second if I don't have to.
that's what I'm saying. I think the Lakers are going to have the hardest time against the Clippers. Out of every team in the West. With that being said, I don't think they lose that series healthy, at least. I mean, the Lakers are a decent, middling Western team without Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Like, they have a squad, and it's very deep.
Yeah.
And all these guys got so many meaningful minutes this year and really stepped up their game. Kyle Kuzma, Caruso, all the guys that you needed to step up, stepped up. Dennis Schroeder's like an all-star all of a sudden. Obviously, he's gotten an all-star in the past, right? One with Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Schroeder's a good player. My thing with... Go ahead and finish. I'll talk after.
Yeah, I'm just saying we forget how good this Lakers team really is. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
or maybe we don't. I don't. I think that they're by far the favorite. And in Vegas, they're the favorite in the West still. Do you know that?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so even with a 5 seed, I'm just saying they know what they're doing. They have a pretty good matchup right now. If they fall behind the Mavericks, that's where the problems arise. Because the Mavs are only 1 game back from the Lakers. And sure, Anthony Davis is playing again, which will help down the stretch. But this could force LeBron back onto the court sooner if the Mavs level up with the Lakers, because you don't want to see Lakers Clippers. I mean, we want to see it, Lakers Clippers first round. But if I'm a Laker, I don't want to see Clippers first round. First of all, it's tiring. Second of all, you could lose. You could legitimately lose. And I don't know. The Lakers at the 5 seed is a really good position for them, I believe.
The Lakers are fucked. I do not forget how good that team is. I do not for 1 second underestimate LeBron James or Anthony Davis's ability to win series, to win games, to win the finals this year. However, LeBron hasn't played basketball in a very long time on an NBA court.
Very long time.
Most critical time of the year. What? It's been at least 4 weeks.
It has. Yeah, you're right, but I don't consider that a very long time for LeBron.
It takes these guys a minute to get into basketball shape and get with their teams. We've seen what happened in the past when guys leave at the end of the year and come back for the playoffs. We've seen it with Harden.
You're saying okay, one quick thing. You're saying these guys. This is LeBron James. He can come back.
I'm not underestimating LeBron, but the part I want to get to here is that you just spoke it yourself. Like, all these guys have had meaningful minutes without LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you bring LeBron back in the mix. Everyone's role changes. Everywhere they're supposed to be on the court changes. Everything changes there, and it takes time to get back into that, and you can't figure that out in 7 games. It's hard to.
That's true.
On top of that, the high ankle sprain is one of those injuries that comes back and bites you when you start to push it too hard. And LeBron doesn't know how many minutes he's going to be able to play and be healthy and in game shape. Dude, the man's old. Like, it takes a second. It takes a second to get back into game shape. And granted, if they get through 4 games or 5 games in the first round and just absolutely obliterate the Nuggets, then I think square zero. You're back to square one. You're back to being the favorite in the West, and everything is as it should be. If it goes to 6 or 7, okay, now I'm a little more scared.
I see what you're talking about, but I'm one of those. I'm a believer that LeBron is healthy right now. Like, that he basically, he could be back on the court right now pushing it, like you're talking about, pushing that high ankle sprain, but he's not. And we think that the normal timetable, but for him, he could be back. And this is just extra time where he's putting in his due diligence. Like, I think he's spending plenty of time off the court for his high ankle sprain and how he feels. So I think when he comes back, I don't think he's going to have that lingering effect. And maybe it's because we've never seen LeBron hurt really or aging really. So this could be a shock. He could come back and we're like, is LeBron a little slow right now for a few games?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to last, but it could be a first. That's for sure. All right, but let's talk about the play-in game in the West, because we barely got into that. The Warriors are exciting.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's such a parallel between the Wizards in the East and the Warriors in the West, because in those play-in games, the best person on the court is on that 10th seed on both conferences. The
best player on the court from 10 to 6 is Steph Curry. The 10 to 6. I mean,
maybe to 1. He could be the MVP. Well, which is weird because I actually didn't see him on the Kia MVP ladder.
He can't be.
Is it because
yeah.
Okay, but we have to talk about him as an MVP too, because he might very well sneak in and get that MVP nod, because he's going nuts. How many 10 plus 3-point games has he had?
He's going berserk.
With that being said,
he's so fun to watch, Sam. Oh my God, he's so fun to watch.
I know he's remarkable. But with that being said, do you think he's going to be enough to get them into that 8th seed?
Yeah.
So they beat the Spurs, and I would be shocked if they lost to the Spurs. That would be a big hiccup in Steph Curry's resume. Obviously, this is one of those years where we kind of wrote the Warriors off, so we won't think about it a lot if they lose. But losing to the Spurs would be shocking to me for the Warriors. But then they play loser of Portland-Memphis. And I don't know. Both Portland and Memphis are better teams than the Warriors this year. And I don't think it's necessarily that close, especially Memphis having Jaren back, because the Warriors don't really have depth. If Steph has a poor shooting night, which is becoming more and more rare, the Warriors have no shot.
I agree.
So it's hard to say, like, oh yeah, the Warriors are going to get that 8th seed for me, even though Steph Curry is going to be the best player on the court, which is usually that equalizer in the playoffs. But maybe that's my bias for Memphis too, because like you, I really enjoy watching them. I wouldn't mind a nice playoff series watching the Grizz, watching Ja Morant do his thing against the Jazz too. I think that would be a really exciting matchup to watch. I think both teams do their part on defense and run in transition a lot. I think that'd be an exciting series. Nothing's going to be more exciting than seeing Steph Curry try to outshoot an entire team by himself, though. Right?
Which he could.
He could.
Part is he could.
Yeah.
Clay, there's no shot. Clay comes back. Is he just... I
No,
think we haven't
he's
seen
out.
him in a decade, but it's really only been 2 years.
I know.
That's
oh, my gosh.
Interesting. Yeah, man. I think Steph, that 10 seed, obviously, right now that they're in, they beat San Antonio. They get in there. They can beat any of those teams and become a 7 seed and play Phoenix.
I'd be
insane.
absolutely shocked if the Blazers didn't get in. Like, I think they're a shoo-in in the West.
The Blazers will get in.
And then, but it's between Memphis and Golden State for that 8th seed, I think.
Do you want to know what's also crazy? Is New Orleans.
Oh my gosh.
Probably not, or definitely not making it into the chance to get into that playoff game. And you look at the teams below them, right? It's Sacramento, Timberwolves, and Houston. And the amount of separation between Sacramento and New Orleans is like astronomical to me. And yet New Orleans is still down there, like way down the list of Western Conference standings.
I can't believe that they're not going to make the play-in game. It's one thing that they're not going to be a top 8 team in the West, but with the talent they have, with the way Zion's playing, shooting 60+%, it's ridiculous.
Insane.
They should be in the playoffs without a doubt. It's an abomination that they aren't, and it's bad for the fans because we all want to see Zion ball out in the playoffs because it would just be super exciting. I can't believe it. And do you think this falls on Stan Van, or do you think it's immaturity in the team, or what do you think?
I think a lot of it does fall on Stan Van because they've obviously been incredibly inefficient in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And not allowing Zion a chance to just go win them games, which they haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it also falls on the Drew Holiday trade and kind of Eric Bledsoe's lack of picking up that slack in a way. Bill Simmons' podcast, right? We just made me listen to it the other day. He said, what did he say? They traded Drew Holiday and they got a lot of scoring and stats back, but what they didn't get back was high basketball IQ.
Mm-hmm.
So like Drew Holiday is like obviously one of the best, highest IQ players, and they didn't get that same IQ back in return, and that hurts in fourth quarter. It doesn't hurt in the second quarter. It doesn't hurt in the early third quarter. It hurts at the end of the third and the fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see Lonzo being that high IQ player down the line, but he's not quite mature enough yet to take that role of like a leadership that knows where to put his guys and to.
He's not vocal about it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
there's
really
times
isn't.
when as a point guard, like, dude, fucking get over to the other side of the key now, go, and the guy just sprints over there and that's not Lonzo's game. And you know LeBron can tell you the other team's plays before they happen.
Yeah,
and he's putting Kuzma in a corner or where they need to be for the body to be in the right spot, and that's vocalization, leadership versus, lead by example.
It's like Chris Paul to a T. Like,
yeah,
Chris Paul will tell you what's up, and if you're not doing something right, I mean, he's gonna let you know. And I think when you play with him, you like it. When you see it from the outside, you're like, is Chris Paul kind of a dick? Yeah. But maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But he's a great leader, and in my opinion, a top 5 in the MVP race this year.
Dude, my vote, if I had a vote, if I was Nick Wright, I would vote Chris Paul. I would hope everyone votes Chris Paul because this is the best season Chris Paul has ever played of basketball.
Do you think so? I do, like, obviously stats wise, no, but I think you're right.
The statistics piss me off a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean he's not putting up crazy numbers
just in this race alone. Just this year right now, I love stats, but this year it's pissing me off because Chris Paul is so clearly far and above and away the MVP because it is the Phoenix Suns who were poor last year. Okay, they were good in the bubble, sure. But the bubble is bubble's a stretch. And Portland made an East or Western Conference Finals because of the bubble. So, I mean, I don't know. I would go Chris Paul. There's no one else that's even close in my opinion. Joel hurt. Nikola, I guess, would be the only one that even compares. You can't give Giannis another one this year, even though he's pretty damn good basketball player.
Yeah, and I think the Bucks have a real chance this year. And maybe I'm falling into that trap that happens every year, where the Bucks show signs of major promise and then falter in the playoffs. But yeah, I don't know. Chris Paul, I think I'm on the same wavelength as you. I think, we saw what he did last year with the Thunder, and maybe we thought, oh, the Thunder are just a better team than we thought. But then when he does it 2 years in a row, he goes to 2 different teams that were struggling. Yeah. And Thunder 5 seed last year, and now the Suns they look dominant. They look like one of the most organized, best teams that I've seen all year, maybe in the past few years, because you got scoring and you got a great backcourt, but it's just the organization.
Let me ask you this. What does the MVP, the award itself, signify to you? What is the value of it? How is it determined?
You see, I've always wanted it to be who is the most valuable to the team, and and winning is a big factor for me.
Yeah.
But it's not that way, unfortunately. Because if it was that way, LeBron would have a couple more. But sometimes it's weird. I wish there was more consistency with the MVP award.
Yeah.
Because it seems recently the MVP award has been straight up, this guy averaged a triple-double, this guy led the league in scoring and was the only guy on his team doing anything. But there was a time where we rewarded Steve Nash for doing what Chris Paul's doing right now.
Yep.
And I would like to see more of that. But there's been major critics because Steve Nash took it from Kobe. Like, so when you do that, when you say, hey, Chris Paul, here's the MVP award, averaging 16, 8, and 5. We'll give him 9 assists, 16, 9, and 5 on just under 50% field goal percentage. A lot of people who don't watch basketball are going to be like, or don't watch religiously, are going to be like, what are you doing? That's insane. How could you possibly give him the nod over Jokic averaging 26, 11, and 9? I mean, like, there's going to be criticism drawn, but sometimes
I feel like it's consensus this year that the award should go to Chris Paul, but it will go to Jokic as far as analysts go.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the MVP award should go to the most valuable player, which is so clearly Chris Paul. That team is a 1-2 seed in the Western Conference for the first time in God knows how long. They've been there all year. They have been there all year, fighting those top 3 spots.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, come on. And yeah, I don't know, that's my thought on it too. Also, you're a 6'2" point guard shooting 49.3%.
Yeah.
And you look at Jokic, 46 or 56. Dude's 7 foot. Joel, 7 foot, 51. Giannis, 7'9", 56. Like, I mean, come on.
And Chris Paul is 6'2" at best, right?
At best, yeah. At best.
He's. I wouldn't be surprised if he's 6 foot.
Yeah.
He's awesome though, and you're right. We haven't seen the Suns like this since Steve Nash, which would be kind of fitting. You know, give him the MVP like we gave it to Steve Nash in this similar situation. If it's going to be interesting because if the Suns go on to like go to the finals, or I mean, this would be nuts, but win a title, then you're going to look back and be like, wow, we should have given it to Chris Paul, right?
Yeah.
Because
of course.
Yeah. But
if they make the Western Conference Finals, if they make the championship and we don't give it, and yeah, I mean, if that team beats the Nets,
jeez.
But yeah, and the other thing I wanted to bring up just really quick, Monty Williams, Coach of the Year, yes, duh.
Yes.
But wasn't he in New Orleans last year?
No, I thought it was Alvin Gentry. I'm trying to think of the other Coach of the Year candidates. Do you have any to throw out there?
The only other ones would be what's his face, the Utah Jazz coach.
What's his face? Schneider. Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, Quinn Schneider. Or the Knicks head coach Thibby.
Oh, give it to Tibbs. Tibbs is my vote. He's my vote. He's my vote. He's the Knicks. I mean, they're
that
playing.
Knicks team I'm in love with.
I'm in love with them. I think the whole world wants to see the Knicks succeed into the playoffs, hopefully deep into the playoffs, because, geez, they're great. Yeah, for me, Tibbs is Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Do you think Julius Randle? Obviously, nobody's talking about him for MVP, but like, I mean, he's been incredibly valuable for that team. He's by far their best player.
Most improved player?
See, that's weird because he's so good that it's hard to give him most improved. You know, I feel like they never give it to a guy who's an all-star. Or
do you give him an all-NBA nod then, for sure?
Definitely a nod, but is it first team, second team, or third team? I think when it comes down to it, it'll be second team. Even though he could very well be a first teamer.
Does LeBron not make an all-NBA team this year?
No, they'll just throw him in the third team. Because there's a ton of guys who aren't playing a lot of games. We got to remember that.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about this MVP race. Nikola, he's been a workhorse out of these guys, except for Chris Paul. He's 63 games to Joel Embiid's 43. Joel Embiid, if he played all these games, when you watch him, you see an MVP. And I think he's playing like an MVP. But I agree that you can't reward it to a guy who's played 60% of the games.
All right, I want to get into some Eastern Conference playoff matchups really quickly, aside from the playoff games, because obviously Brooklyn, I don't even want to talk about them. And then, okay, so we go to Phoenix. If Washington gets in versus Phoenix,
wait, no, not fun. Phoenix, Philadelphia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm seeing peas.
It's all right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Philly, Miami would be a sick series.
Philly, Miami would
rough. Be such a fun series to watch.
Yes, and I think
any team against Miami.
That's exactly what I was just going to say, because you know you're going to get defense. And basketball fans want to see defense. We want to see physical games, and any series with the Knicks is going to be wild. I think. Yeah, let's talk about
the Knicks-Hawks series. If they're allowing fans at the Knicks-Hawks game,
I think they will.
I might give every dollar I have to go to one of those games.
It's going to take every dollar. It's going to literally be at least $1,000 for the worst seat.
I might give every dollar I have. And I might give $1,000 to go to that game. You should. Because that's how in love I am with this Knicks team, and that's how badly I miss going to basketball games.
Oh, my gosh. I just went to a Dodgers game the other night. It's great.
Ooh, that's tight.
Yeah, it was just nice to be back at a sporting event. I thought it was so fun.
Baseball sucks, but attending baseball games so fun.
I think everyone can agree that you don't care about the game. It's just really nice to kick back, relax, have a couple drinks, and watch baseball. Walk around the concourse a little bit, chat with your friends. There was some rowdiness next to us too. A guy got kicked out.
Yes.
I mean, you're gonna get that at a baseball game.
A great experience.
Yeah, good food. Maybe it's not great food, but it's at a stadium, so it's great. I love stadium food. It was my first time at a Dodgers game too, and that is a gorgeous stadium. That's got to be on my top 5 that I've visited. But back to basketball, Knicks Hawks. That series, if it stands like this, I think I take Knicks. It's a series that doesn't even worry me for the Knicks for some reason. I just feel like they have this winning mentality right now that I don't see in the Atlanta Hawks as much.
Yeah.
And the way Tibbs will play 45
is playing
minutes.
So good. Clint Capella is playing super good, both sides of the ball. The problem is Trae Young.
Are they better
He's got
without
to be
Trae Young?
really efficient. He's got to be really efficient when he comes back, and he needs to not pretend like the ball isn't just attached to him at all times. He needs to be able to move it a little better.
Yeah, you're 100% right. But when he's playing well, that Hawks team is really hard to beat. Yeah. But he can be that thorn in the side. If he's not having an efficient game, he can make them lose. And I think the Knicks, you know what you're going to get every single night, because Tibbs is that kind of coach where he's gonna play his main guys 40 minutes, and they're all types of guys that they don't necessarily depend on shooting outside of Reggie Bullock, who's been great for them, and he doesn't have a lot of bad shooting nights. So I just think in a 7-game series, I want to see the Knicks win, but I also believe that they have that in the bag, especially. I mean, Trae Young's been kind of out too, so I don't know. I love this Knicks team. I like how good R.J. Barrett looks. Derrick Rose was a huge pickup alongside Quickly.
R.J. Barrett's nice. R.J. Barrett's nice, Sam.
And he's going to become more and more efficient. He's sneaky. He's going to be an all-star.
Boston and Milwaukee. I just think Boston just gets rolled.
Screwed. Yeah, Boston is in such a weird place. I would hate to be in that front office. I'd hate to be a Boston fan. They just.
Dude, what's wrong with Kemba? Every time I turn on a Boston game, Kemba's shooting a bunch of shots and they're all bricks.
I don't know what's wrong with him, because I've always liked him. I've always thought he was a really good player at Charlotte. When he got an All-Star nod, I thought it was great.
Yeah, for sure.
He killed everyone in college, so he's got game on all levels. But
I want to throw a couple names at you. Kemba, you tell me which one you pick. Kemba or Trae Young?
Obviously Trae Young, for the way Kemba's playing.
Kemba or Ja?
Ja, for sure. To me, Kemba's nothing. There's not a lot of guys that I would.
A middling tier? Kemba or Kyle Lowry?
Lowry in the playoffs? I want Lowry more than Ja.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean,
Kemba or Eric Bledsoe?
that's the best one that you brought up, because I want to say I still think in a playoff series I want Eric Bledsoe, because if he's a better defensive player,
Yeah,
and
bigger.
he's learned his role for that Pelicans team. Like, he doesn't shoot a ton of shots.
Yeah.
So, because Kemba, and I get the whole thing, like, keep shooting if you're having a bad night. But when those bad nights become streaky and you have 10 bad nights in a row, it's like, yeah, maybe stop shooting.
Yeah.
You got guys that can get a bucket. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown.
Tatum's so good.
Even Marcus Smart I like on the floor more than Kemba. So that Boston team is just in a weird place, and I don't think they have any hope to win a series, especially in that 6th seed. It would be a fun series, Boston versus New York, if they pass Atlanta, which is very possible. But I still would like New York in that series.
What happens? All right, so one plays the winner of Milwaukee and Boston.
Wait, what exactly are you saying? Okay.
All right, so Brooklyn beats. We'll say Miami gets. It goes. Oh no, we'll say it's Washington. So Brooklyn beats Washington. Philly beats Miami.
Brooklyn
Milwaukee
would
beats
play the
Boston.
winner of the Knicks Hawks.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes,
That
but
would be so insane, though, in New York.
very fun.
Holy shit!
Yes.
That would be wild in New York.
It's not a great situation for the Knicks, but for the fans,
For anybody. For anybody in the NBA. Not a good situation to play.
yeah, because we want to see the Knicks. Yeah, you're right. No team wants to see Brooklyn, even though who knows what we're going to see out of Harden now that he hasn't been playing for a while, and will he come back? I have no idea his status. Let's look at some more series. So, yeah, we talked about Philly Heat, and that would just be rough and tumble. Who do you want to see against Brooklyn in the first series more than anyone? Because there's some good options. Because the Hornets are going to have LaMelo back and Gordon Hayward, and Miles Bridges is playing amazing right now.
Sweep.
Okay,
Doesn't matter.
I'm asking for your opinion as a fan. Who do you want to see? Because you got that series, which would be fun because I like Charlotte.
I want to see what other games are on. Maybe Dancing with the Stars is on that night.
You wouldn't.
So I'm
you're
not
saying
watching.
You wouldn't tune in. Okay.
No.
You're
no
saying
game
you
I would
wouldn't
watch.
tune in to KD versus Russ.
Nope.
If the Wizards are 8, you're not going to tune in.
Nope.
Oh my gosh, dude!
And
Brooklyn.
this is that is intriguing. Yes, I would enjoy that, but I can go on Instagram and watch the 30-second spat afterwards of them mouthing at each other, and that'd be the only reason I watch it, because Washington is getting destroyed in all 4 of those games.
Yeah, it's
You're
hard to.
just so annoyed right now. You're like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
Well, it's hard
But
to
it's
argue
also-
that, but I'd still tune in, especially because I love watching the Hornets. I love watching. Well, I don't love watching the Wizards, but I would love to see that rivalry, that player rivalry, at least.
Yeah. The principle of it is, for me, is fuck Brooklyn. I'm just annoyed with their team.
Oh yeah,
So I don't
absolutely.
wanna,
but I don't think they're going to
support
win
or
this year.
watch.
So
I do.
there's my piece. It's Lakers or nothing. We haven't even talked about
I
the
love
Pacers having a chance. Like, are we
No,
just?
they don't have a chance.
Are they losing to the
That's not
Wizards and then it's done?
No. But it doesn't matter because they have to play Brooklyn. So
Oh, see, but no, I'm talking about the play-in again.
playing wise,
Do
yeah,
the Pacers have any chance? You think they have a chance? They're a weird team because
I do think they have a chance. Go ahead.
I'm saying Sabonis is very solid. Malcolm Brogdon
So
in the first
underrated.
30 games was an all-star. I texted you about that like months and months ago. He totally slowed down. I don't know what happened. Maybe more minutes in Karis LeVert's hands. But that team, yeah, you go down the line, it's a pretty solid squad, and for some reason they're just not exciting enough for us to talk about them.
Yeah.
And then
They don't have any star power, any flashiness. Sabonis is like one of those foreign players that's really good, but doesn't get talked about like Luka. So it's doesn't. I mean, he's like on that like Bogdan Bogdanovic like kind of
What?
train where like
You said you're talking
Bogdanovich,
about Boban?
the Hawks.
You're talking
No.
about Bogdanovich.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough name.
He's averaging 22 right now, like absolutely just carrying this Hawks team. But no one's talking about it because you can't even say his name. You know what I mean? So like Sabonis
Yeah.
is like the same thing. So
I know what you
those
mean,
guys
yeah.
are really, really freaking good players, but they're not bringing fans into the stadium.
Yeah, not necessarily. Something I'm finding really intriguing right now is just how comparable the Eastern and West Conference playing scenarios are. Like Miami Heat, the 7, and Portland, the 7. Like both teams that should probably be a higher seed and not have to worry about this. And then you go down one, the 8th seed is Charlotte Hornets in the East, Memphis Grizzlies in the West. Both young teams, very exciting, play good basketball. And then you got Pacers, Spurs at the 9th, boring, right?
Yeah.
And then you have that exciting 10 seed with really great players in Washington and Golden State. It's fun, but it's like, wow, that's like the most on the nose comparison I've seen. Like it's crazy. Both conferences have a very similar playing situation.
So let's look at this real quick because I just Googled this. The 2017-18, right? That's 4 or 5 seasons ago.
2017-18?
Yeah.
It's got to be 4 or 3, right? 4?
2017, 2018, 2018,
It's
2019.
3 seasons ago. It's 2021 right now. That's 3 years ago.
Okay, 3 years ago. So even just 3 years ago, it was Rockets 1, Warriors 2, Blazers 3, Thunder 4, Jazz 5, Pelicans 6, Spurs 7, Timberwolves 8.
Jeez.
3 years ago, that was the NBA standings after the end of the regular season. And look at the flip that we've had now. The Lakers weren't in there. Nuggets were 9, Clippers 10, Lakers 11, Mavs 13, Grizzlies 14, Suns were dead last.
Wow.
It's literally, I love the progression through the Western Conference because we haven't had that a ton in the last decade or so. It's always been like these
big
outstanding
players,
Western Conference teams. The Warriors have been up there, and I love seeing that some of these small market teams. I mean, dude, these aside from the Lakers or the Los Angeles teams, like Denver isn't a massive market; it's a big market.
Yeah,
but Utah,
you're right.
Phoenix, Portland, Memphis, San Antonio, like those aren't big market teams. And that's really fun.
Yeah, you're right. We usually see teams, they acquire an all-star, and that's how they get good. But in the West, we're seeing this whole renaissance of like drafting good players and
Like
picking up an older Chris Paul, which is obviously it's a huge move, but it doesn't read like picking up Kevin Durant. You know what I mean?
No.
So
it's value.
Exactly. So I think it's an exciting time in basketball because we're seeing the benefit of drafting good players and how playing like good basketball can make you win games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like you can put a bunch of stars on a team and they'll end up winning anyway. But
the angle of back then, right? We had Steph go back-to-back MVPs. All of a sudden, in like a matter of like 2 years, everyone fell in love with the three-point shot, and so all these teams are just hucking threes. Remember how many threes the Rockets were shooting a couple years ago? Like an absurd amount, right?
Yeah.
And now we've kind of fallen into this like actual like, okay, we figured out that yes, the three-point shot is vital, crucial, important. Teams are shooting a lot more threes than they ever were in the past, but it isn't just chuck threes and make it go in. It's like we have now all of these teams have built systems around getting in themselves good three-point shots while also maintaining defensive pressure and getting to the bucket. And so I like that teams like Utah don't have a star. Like you said, they've drafted their way into this number 1 seed in the Western Conference, not the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference. And it's awesome.
It's very, very fun to see. I feel like I just had a tidbit and I forgot about it.
Yeah, I just interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't even that. It was.
No, I'm sorry, Sam. I'm so sorry. I interrupted you.
No, I just lost focus.
All right, we got to close this out. I got to get to work here in a second. But before we do, we got to get a little Western Conference breakdown because Clippers, Mavs, good series, but we didn't get to talk enough about Denver and Los Angeles. you talked about a little bit, and I said they're fucked. But I do want to talk about the fact that Nikola Jokic, who probably could win an MVP, if they beat the Lakers, let's just say this, if they beat the Lakers, all of a sudden, I really like Denver.
Really? Without Jamal.
I like Denver without Jamal.
And Will Barton's hurt.
Barton's out?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, that's tough. And Jokic does it all, but in today's NBA, I mean, one guy can't do it. You got to at least have that big duo.
I didn't know Barton was out. That's tragic.
Yeah, because he's been playing great. I think I don't see a world where Denver beats Lakers in the first round, and I think LeBron also doesn't see that world, which means it's not going to happen.
Dude, I'm not bought into LeBron right now. Like, you know, I'm the biggest LeBron fan ever. But
you're just being skeptical, and that's good. You don't want to get your hopes up.
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to get my hopes up. But I don't know. I'm in love with Jokic's game. Like, I watched. It was like 3 nights ago. But dude, he's so good. The way he scores, the way he moves, the way he's down the floor before some of the guards are. Like after the defensive rebound, he's down the floor so fast. It's like. I don't know. He's just the great white hope.
Yeah, I mean he's incredible.
He's so good to watch.
Yeah, you need to put your TV in ×2 speed to make it look normal. But
yeah, where I was going with
amazing.
that too is like, until you get to Gobert, there's no bigs in the West that can guard him or do anything with him.
Oh yeah, okay. So I do remember the thing I was gonna say to you, or ask you. Who is the best team in the NBA if you eliminate the 3-point line? Well, maybe discount the Lakers, because I think that's obviously the Lakers.
Yeah.
So without the Lakers, who's the best team in the NBA without the 3-point shot?
It's either Milwaukee, Philadelphia, or the Knicks, and they're all in the Eastern Conference.
Yes,
It's Giannis in Milwaukee, it's Philly with Simmons and Embiid, or it's the Knicks.
I'd say Milwaukee a few years ago, before they started like putting out 3-point shooters and like making their system or picking up players to benefit that 3-point shooting system. I think Philadelphia, without a question.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, Kyrie doesn't need to shoot threes, Kevin Durant doesn't need to shoot threes, and James Harden doesn't need to shoot threes to get buckets. So
that's true,
right? It's hard to say that they're not the best.
You could play that team way differently without the 3-point shot, right? Because you don't have to follow KD and Harden out in the wings as Kyrie brings it up. Like, you can stack the paint a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. But then their mid-ranges are unreal. Kyrie and Kevin Durant's mid-range.
And if you take the 3-point shot away, it doesn't even matter almost, because they're still going to shoot from
if they want.
So, and it just counts as 2, and it goes in the same way as it does from 18. So
yeah. All right. So back to what we were just talking about in the West. Lakers are beating the Nuggets, and then they're playing the Jazz, and they're beating the Jazz, and then they're probably playing the Clippers, because I like Phoenix, but I don't know if they're good enough to make the Western Conference Finals.
What if Dallas takes LA to 7, and
Dallas takes the Clippers to 7?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Isn't that what happened last year? Or was it 6?
I think it was 6.
It's always harder to remember the bubble series. It just seemed
the bubble was like a blackout to me.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, NBA all day, every single day. Like, wow, this is too good to be true. But you're right. It's hard to remember the specifics of it, because it all came at us really fast. I see a world where Dallas can take the Clippers to a few extra games. Tim Hardaway's playing well. Chris Dobbs has to play in the paint a little bit, has to rebound better for them to have any chance. But we know the Clippers can choke, and who knows what Kawhi's going to show up, or how Kawhi's going to show up, or how Paul George is going to show up to that series. So I love the Mavericks. I would love to see them upset the Clippers, because that'd also be good for the Lakers. All right, so let's just close it out. So I want to hear you. Who's the 7th and 8th seed after the play-in's done for you in the East and West? And then we'll just go from there.
I think it's definitely Miami and
Okay.
Washington.
You think
if-
definitely Washington?
I think so. They're so hot right now. And Beal and Westbrook are they're just the best. They're the best players out of all four of those teams. The two best players are on one team.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to the playoffs, it's like, yeah, I mean that is a very big factor. Where are the best players? Which side of the floor are they on?
Mm-hmm. I can't argue with that logic, but I'm gonna take Charlotte. I really like Charlotte's team. They play some of the most pretty basketball in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes down to, and they play really hard, and Miles Bridges has become that X factor for
Miles
them.
Bridges, so good. So fun to
good.
watch. They're definitely probably the most fun team to watch in the league right now.
Yeah, and I think they're better. I think Charlotte with LaMelo and Hayward back are better than the Celtics and better than the Hawks.
Yeah.
But that's too bad because if they get into the playoffs, it's probably going to be an 8 seed, and they're probably just going to get thwomped by the Nets.
If Boston gets thwomped, is Brad Stevens gone?
It's hard.
Probably.
It's hard to say that because it just hasn't been that long since we thought he was a really good coach.
Yeah.
All right, but now to the Western Conference. Who's your 7 and 8? Are you going the same? Are you going Portland, Golden State, or?
I hate discounting Greg Popovich. That's kind of part of my problem is like.
Plus, let's not forget they got DeMar DeRozan, DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson looks really good.
Kind of dope.
Yeah, they're
DeMar is
sneaky.
so good. DeMar is so good.
He is.
I'm gonna go Portland. Does Memphis? Can Memphis get in if Portland gets in?
Yeah, both of them can get in, but one of them is probably gonna have. Memphis is probably gonna have to beat the Warriors, which is in a one-game situation. It's tough.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to. Oh, that's so tough. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Portland, Memphis. I'm gonna go Portland, Memphis.
Okay.
Because wait, if Golden State loses both the playing games, do they stay the 10 seed and then they get that better draft pick?
Huh. I never even thought about the draft implications, but yes, I believe so. I agree with you. I like Portland, Memphis. I think Memphis is one of those really good teams right now.
Memphis is deep.
Yeah, and with Jaren Jackson back, they're just deeper, and he's going to be a rim protector, and he can shoot threes. He's like the perfect mold of an NBA player that execs want. So when he gets back into his groove, Memphis becomes a lot better. And we're both completely convinced that neither the Bulls, Raptors, or Pelicans are going to make their way into that 10th seed, right?
Correct. I don't think Steph lets that happen.
Yeah, okay. I agree on that. I think we're pretty much set in stone the teams that are going to be participating in the play-in and the playoffs, but the order could change. So, yeah, let's just wrap it up on that. We think Chris Paul deserves the MVP, maybe. Well, we definitely think that, but he's not going to get it. We think the Wizards and the Warriors are interesting.
Let's make Eastern and Western Conference Finals predictions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, let's end it on that. So in the Eastern Conference Finals, I hate it, but I'm gonna take the Nets versus because I bought into Philly, but I'm gonna take Nets Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And man, do we have to pick a winner?
No.
Okay. Because I don't want to. Because
that's going to be way too hard.
Well, it's not even hard. It's like I don't want to say the Nets. I don't want to blow them up. Okay. And in the Western Conference, it's going to be the Lakers versus... Oh, man, I want to say the Suns so bad, but I think it's Lakers-Clippers. It's an L.A. battle, and it's going to be incredibly exciting if we get that series. It's... Especially here in LA, it's gonna be wild. What about you?
I'm having trouble figuring out how that Brooklyn and Milwaukee could get to the Western or Eastern Conference Finals.
That's how
together.
it works.
Don't they have to play each other before?
No.
Wouldn't they have to play each other the semis?
No. So Brooklyn will play the winner of Knicks Hawks, and then
okay.
yeah,
No,
yeah. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm going Brooklyn, Philly for sure.
Okay.
They're just too good to get beat by a very limited Giannis Antetokounmpo in the playoffs.
Yeah, but Drew Holiday looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. But
Okay, but that's a good pick. I buy into the Sixers too. I think they're a really good team, but I also think the Bucks are a really good team.
yeah,
So how about,
that'll be such a fun series to watch either way.
yeah. How about your Western Conference?
What if I don't say Lakers? Are you?
Oh, go ahead. It's just gonna be wrong.
No. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go based off of what I want to see in the world. I want to see Phoenix.
Okay.
So can the Lakers and Phoenix play in the Western Conference Finals?
Yes.
Because 1-8,
yes.
4-5. Yeah, they can. Yeah, I'm gonna go Lakers Phoenix.
That would be such an awesome series.
And Lakers just go win it in 5 or 6.
Yeah, they'll probably if the Lakers are healthy and LeBron's back to playing like LeBron, I mean, they'll run through them, I think, but that would be a really good series because Chris Paul's clutch, and he's always been clutch, but he's more clutch than ever now. So let's wrap it. You got to get on the golf course. I got to get to set. Thanks everyone for listening, even though you did not make it this far. But if you did, comment your email and I'll say happy birthday.
If
it's your
made it
birthday.
this far, I will personally send you a golf tee from Bobby Jones.
Oh, Connor will send you a golf tee, but nobody's
It'll
gonna
be
make it this
wooden,
far.
and you'll break
So, and if you do make it this far, I love you. I personally love you
because
so
you
much.
are probably my mother. Or
That's true.
or-
Yeah, I don't
or
think
my,
our
like,
mothers watch the
second
whole
aunt.
thing.
No, they're
Okay,
not watching the whole fucking thing.
so let's call it. Thanks everyone for listening to Home Court Podcast. See ya.
See ya.